The Texas Rangers decided they weren't done bolstering their starting rotation, going out and getting Jordan Montgomery from the St. Louis Cardinals at the trade deadline just one day after picking up Max Scherzer. They also get a nice bullpen piece in Chris Stratton to go ahead and try and set their bullpen up for success after they have now a plethora of starters from Max Scherzer, Martin Perez, Dane Dunning, a couple other players, and now Jordan Montgomery to go on top of that and really create a formidable rotation come October. Montgomery is in the last year of arbitration, so he will be a free agent at the end of the season. He's currently making $10 million, and he's doing pretty well as a starter, pitching to a 3.42 ERA. He also has a 3.76 FIP, and he's pitching to a 125 walks and hits per inning pitch. So he's been solid this year, nothing to write home about. It was not all-star numbers, but he's going to be a solid pitcher and someone you can depend on in a Game 3 to go ahead and put your team in contention after you have someone like Max Scherzer go ahead and hopefully win you one of the first two games. Reliever Chris Stratton was also involved in this deal, and he's been a little bit unlucky this year. His 4.36 ERA is not anything to write home about, but he has a 3.06 FIP, which is a big difference between ERA and FIP, a 3.48 SIERA, and he's striked out just about 10 batters per 9 innings. So he's been solid this year. Just been a little bit unlucky in terms of earned runs, and that number should hopefully go down as the season progresses. And it looks like the Rangers will have him in a most likely high leverage role. Right now, they don't have a ton of depth in their bullpen outside of Will Smith and Aroldis Chapman. Jose Leclerc is pretty solid, but at the end of the day, they need guys who can go and win games right now at the 8th or 9th inning, and they just don't have that depth to go out and do that every day, and hopefully Chris Stratton is that guy who can help them and do that. Before I get and break down the prospects and the return package that St. Louis got for both Montgomery and Stratton, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in more trade content like this and prospect reviews. All that's going to be coming out more so as the trade deadline goes on and as it passes, to go and review some of the past trades from either this year that didn't get talked about enough or past year. So if you're interested in that sort of content, definitely go in the top right or top left, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out grow a channel like mine. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the return package that the St. Louis Cardinals got back from the Texas Rangers for these two players. The first player heading back is Thomas Sagesse, a second baseman, third baseman who's currently playing in Double-A. He was the Rangers' last pick in the 2020 draft, and remember that was only 5 rounds. It was a 5th round pick out of Carlsbad High School in Carlsbad, California, which is right by San Diego. And he is someone who really impressed and has risen up prospect lists quite a bit since he was drafted. He is a little bit too aggressive and undisciplined at the plate, but he projects to be an average hitter, especially if he can go and get that kind of ability to just free swing out of his game and really hone in his tools. He's a bit raw as a hitter because of that, but there's a lot of potential there for him to hit for average and have at least decent power when he's at it as well. He's improved on this a lot in 2023. His K rate is a little bit high for what people would traditionally like, but he's definitely doing a decent job at reducing his aggressiveness and honing himself in a little bit more at the plate. So it's something that he's definitely improving his stock in that regards. One big plus about Saggese is his infield versatility. He's played all over the diamond at every position on the infield in his minor league career, and so that will allow you to go ahead and give someone like Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt a rest day, or if Paul DeJong gets hurt, you can now put him in at shortstop short term. It gives teams a lot of flexibility, and it's something that's really going to help the Cardinals in the long term as they go and hopefully contend, as I think he makes the big leagues near the end of 2024 or potentially out of spring training in 2025. That versatility is definitely a huge calling card. Again, his hit tool, especially if you can rein that in, is something that scouts are excited about. He's got a 3.14 average this year, a 3.80 OBP. His OPS is 894, so he's definitely doing really, really well in Double-A right now. He helped lead the Double-A team to the Texas League Championship last year. It's a big part of that success. And he's already got 15 home runs and 8 stolen bases, so he has a lot, again, of power and a decent amount of speed. Now, that's not me saying he's going to steal 30 bags. I think maybe 15 is a more realistic number, but he's going to be able to make a difference on the base pass, and that's more than you can say about the decent number of players currently in baseball today. And that speed doesn't impact him negatively on the defensive side of the ball, so it really is just more of a range thing, is why he probably won't stay at shortstop long term, and third base or second base is more suited for him. He has decent enough arm strength to play third base. Again, it's probably better suited for second, but it's definitely a possibility that third base is going to be a fine everyday position for him, so it's definitely something that the versatility will be nice. He's not going to be someone that just sits on your bench and plays maybe 100 games to fill in for guys on rest. He's going to be what should be about an everyday player. Obviously, everyone has rest days now and then. No one really plays the full 162 anymore. But he's going to be a guy that you're going to see, fill in for injuries if someone comes out. So maybe he'll be your everyday second baseman or rotate with Nolan Gorman to DH. And then go ahead and play first base if Goldschmidt gets hurt or needs a day off. So you'll see him more in that role than as a true bench player who just ends up coming out and helping out if something needs to happen. But he's going to be a solid player in the long term. The second player St. Louis acquired was Tekoah Roby, a 21-year-old right-hander who's currently in Double-A. There is a little bit of an issue with him right now as he hurt his shoulder back in June. There hasn't been a lot of updates on that, but he's currently on the Double-A IL. He got assigned to the St. Louis Cardinals Double-A affiliate. He's going to stay on the IL. Any injury to a pitcher is going to be at least a little bit concerning, but when you're looking at someone like Tekoah Roby, he has a good profile, and if the St. Louis Cardinals weren't confident that he was going to be pretty good, they wouldn't have wanted him in this trade. They probably got him at a little bit of a discount. If you look at where he is on MLB Pipeline, he is pretty lowly ranked compared to where a lot of sites have him. Right now, he's ranked as the 11th best prospect, but you're going to see him a lot higher on other lists if you look around. So don't necessarily go off that resource. And again, MLB Pipeline doesn't update a ton close to the trade deadline. They do their big update after. So after that is when you're really going to want to look and evaluate where players are, as it's a good reference now to see they were closer to the start of the season, but you're really not going to get a good update until after the trade deadline if you use MLB Pipeline. Just like Saggese, he was a 2020 pick in the third round this time, and he was out of high school, and he forgo his commitment to Troy to go ahead and sign with the Texas Rangers for $775,000. He was one of the youngest starters in Double-A this year until that injury happened, and he has 4 really, really good pitches, all plus pitches. His fastball acts a little bit like a sinking fastball, and so that really generates a lot of swing and miss and deception with hitters. And his curveball, although you don't always see it as his best pitch graded out, there are some sites, for example, Fangraphs, that have it as one of the best curveballs in the minor leagues, while if you look at something like MLB Pipeline, they'll say they're all about average. That's just the nature of scouting. You're going to have people scout differently. I think his curveball is his best pitch. Maybe not an elite pitch in all of minor league baseball, but it's definitely up there if I'm going to have to go and list curveballs that are really, really good in the minor league system. His changeup and slider do a pretty good job of neutralizing left-handed and right-handed hitters, respectively, so the fact he's able to use 2 different pitches to go ahead and tackle 2 different groups of hitters is really good at looking at his 4-pitch mix. I would hesitate to call it one of the best pitch mixes in the minor leagues, but if someone said they really liked it and they have it in the tier below, I'm all for that. That's about where I have it, maybe in that 3rd tier of pitch mixes, just because I don't think the curveball is a true elite pitch. He has 4 really good pitches, and he projects to have decent control. He needs to get a little bit better at controlling his changeup, but you can say that about a lot of pitchers today in the minor league system. His fastball, again, isn't super fast. It sits around 96, but it is that vertical movement that makes it kind of similar to a sinking fastball that really goes and deceives hitters and gives Tekoah Roby a good shot of getting a swing and miss on that ball. The slider that I already mentioned, he only added last year, so the fact that it already grades out as a plus pitch and should continue to be a plus pitch is really impressive. It just shows, and it really goes to show you just the kind of player Tekoah Roby is. He's willing to learn. He's willing to put in the effort to make himself a better pitcher, and at the end of the day, if you're telling me that I need to find a prospect, I want the guy who has the mental makeup like Tekoah Roby to go ahead and make the improvements and take feedback and implement it. And that's exactly what he's done by adding a slider and working on it to become a better pitch. And the fact that he's learned it so quickly is incredibly impressive on his part. His pitching motion is a bit violent, and I already mentioned the injury. He also was injured back in 2021, which is something that's pretty scary. So it is a little bit of a hesitation for me, and that's probably why you see him ranked lower on some prospect lists like MLB Pipeline, is because of that injury risk, especially now that he's hurt again. But at the end of the day, he's someone that if he comes back healthy, could be knocking on the door of top 100 prospect status. I think of last year when the Cubs acquired Ben Brown. That is exactly what could happen. You have a guy who's not necessarily there yet, but if Tekoah Roby doesn't need Tommy John surgery and he comes back strong, I wouldn't be shocked if come the midseason update for a 2024 prospect list, maybe MLB Pipeline, maybe Fangraphs, you see Tekoah Roby near that bottom 100 on that list. He's going to be a really special pitcher if he can stay healthy, and I think that's what the Cardinals are banking on. And they probably got him at a little bit of a discount because of that current injury, but if they feel like that injury isn't major, I'm sure they're more than willing to go ahead and invest that into him. Again, don't make too much of these numbers. He is only 21 right now, and these are Double-A numbers. He's definitely very, very young for that league. He's got a 5.05 ERA. He's got a strikeout per 9 at about 9, so a strikeout an inning. That's not horrible. He's getting hit a little bit. His whip's 1.32, but he's not walking a ton of batters, which is great. His walk ratio is phenomenal. He only walked 12 batters in 46 innings, which is really, really good. But hitters are getting on base a 247 batting average against, so he really does need to go and develop a little bit more at Double-A. He's not going to be someone that makes an immediate impact, but if he's healthy and he can get back on the diamond in 2024, there's a chance if he really goes and heals well, he could help the Cardinals in 2024. I think 2025, just like Saggese, is a little more realistic, but at the end of the day, he's someone that will help the Cardinals in the long term. He has a very high ceiling with that 4 picks Mitch. You could slot in the bullpen and use all of those pitches, but at the end of the day, I think his best bet, stay as a starter and really become potentially a nice number 3 starter for a what should be a competitive St. Louis Cardinals team in 2024-2025. This channel is mainly focused on prospects, so I'm not going to talk too much about John King, the third piece that the St. Louis Cardinals acquired in this deal. He's an MLB pitcher. His third season is right now. He has 3 arbitration years after this of control and then 2 options to get sent back down to the minors. He currently has a 5.79 ERA, but the underlying stats really show that he's been incredibly unlucky, more so than Chris Stratton. His expected ERA is a 3.8, his FIP's a 3.55, and his SIERA is a 3.46, so he's definitely been really, really unlucky. He's also a ground ball pitcher, which I think is perfect for St. Louis. You have 2 Gold Glovers at each corner with Nolan Arenado, who might be the best defensive third baseman of all time, and Paul Goldschmidt. So might as well give them the opportunity to go and make plays rather than give up potentially more home runs with someone who hits a lot more fly balls. Right now, 2/3 of all of his plate appearances end in a ground ball, and he has a strikeout per 9 under 5. So he really is an extreme case of a ground ball pitcher, but that works perfectly with the infield of Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, along with the 2 middle infielders that they have playing those days. For the Texas Rangers, I'm going to give them an A for this deal. We'll start off with Jordan Montgomery, and they have a ton of pitching depth now in their starting rotation, and I think that's what they're looking for. They just picked up Max Scherzer, they just picked up Jordan Montgomery, so I expect both those 2 to slot into the playoff rotation. And now they can go ahead and decide for the last 2 slots between people like Dane Dunning, Martin Perez, John Gray, Andrew Heaney. And at this point, they have 7 starting pitchers, and you're really only going to have approximately 4 in your starting rotation. So whichever 3 get left out, I wouldn't be shocked if one of them gets left off the playoff roster entirely for whatever division they're on. And the other 2 will end up slotting into the bullpen, and I think that's really going to help because their bullpen is not strong. Will Smith and Aroldis Chapman are the only 2 that I would call truly trustworthy in elite situations. And even then, the last time Aroldis Chapman pitched, as per the recording of this video, it was a blown save. So at the end of the day, they really do need people who can help out in their bullpen. And I think going ahead and having maybe someone like Cody Bradford or moving Dane Dunning to the bullpen for a little bit is going to help them in the long term. And if they need more bullpen pieces, I wouldn't be shocked if they go out and get it. This was a huge bolster to their playoff rotation. And they can take whoever doesn't make it, stick them in the bullpen, be a little flexible because in the playoffs, options don't really matter. So they're going to have a lot of flexibility going into there. And that also restricts them from going out and needing to get another arm in the bullpen because now they have a lot of arms that they can be flexible with. So I really like this trade for them. I think it fills 2 needs. I'm not saying Chris Stratton's going to immediately be a high leverage guy you're going to throw into a save or hold situation. But I think if his numbers start to come down, he gets a little more lucky. He's going to end up in those situations. He had a hold a couple days ago when he was playing for St. Louis, so he has experience there. But at the end of the day, I think this is more of a depth move, but I think this is a much needed depth move for them to go ahead and make, and I really like what the payoff is going to be for the Texas Rangers. As for the St. Louis Cardinals, I'm going to give them a B-, which might seem a little excessive, but I think Saggese, he's a good player, but he doesn't have a super high ceiling, and that's something that really scares me. He is going to be a good player. He'll probably play every day, but he's not going to be the kind of player that when he comes up to bat, you say we have a chance. It'll kind of be a, okay, maybe he gets a hit, maybe he gets on base. He's not going to be an exciting player. He's not going to reach outstanding potential. I want him to, but that's just not what he projects to be. And I don't really love that aspect of his game. In terms of Tekoah Roby, it's almost the exact inverse. He is a lot of potential, balled up in a man, but he's hurt a lot. And with a pitcher, when you're hurt, it's really, really scary. And the fact that we haven't heard anything since June, the beginning of June, which at this point is 2 months ago, about his injury, that's really concerning. Obviously, the Cardinals were happy with it, and I'm going to trust the people who know more than me to say this is okay. But when you have a pitcher who's been injured twice in the past 3 years, both arm injuries, at that point, it gives me a little bit of pause. I think he has the potential to be a great 2 or 3 starter, but the ability for him to reach that is entirely dependent on injuries. And if he keeps getting injured, he's only 21. He's had a lot. This is not going to turn out well for the Cardinals. They could very easily end up if Thomas Sagesse maybe falls a little bit below what people expect him to be. Maybe he is just a bench guy, or Tekoah Roby ends up getting hurt. This trade in 5 years could either look really good for the Cardinals or it could look really bad. And I am not 100% sure it's going to look great for them going back. John King, again, will be a decent piece going forward, but the purpose of this channel really is to highlight prospects. So I think John King will be good. He's in a good situation. It'll probably be an improvement over the Texas Rangers infield. So I will go ahead and say good for John King. Hopefully he gets those numbers down. But I'm not super excited about the return they got. I think it's a solid return. When you look at the starters that have already been traded, It's been a lot of, in my opinion, overpays, and I don't think this was an overpay. So that's part of the reason why Texas gets such a high grade here. And as always, if you like what I do on this channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can do it in the bottom right, the logo right there. It really means a lot. And please comment what you think about this trade, if you would have done it if you were either side, or if you kind of wish there was a different prospect included. It's always fun speculating on what could have been. So definitely go ahead and do that. And I hope you enjoyed the video and stay tuned for more.